Good afternoon, everyone. As usual, I'm just going to give a couple of seconds to allow you guys to come in before we start the business of the day. But even as you guys keep coming in, just want to use this opportunity to say a shout out to you guys. How have you guys been? Those at work, how is the work going? Those on break, those driving down, those caught up in traffic. How is the day going with you? I hope things are moving on smoothly. Today is actually the first day of March. Hey, happy new month to each and every one of you. Let me just give you guys a shout out prayer. I pray this month shall be a blessed month to you guys in Jesus' name. Can I hear an amen? Amen. Without, let's just kick it off. Yeah, I can see I've got quite numbers of people on my attendees list. We'll just start from here. Good afternoon once again and welcome. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, my name is Gagba Esahaya and I'm the training coordinator of the Temple Small Business Development Center. The Temple Small Business Development Center helps small businesses start and grow. We offer free one-on-one consulting and a variety of low to no cost webinars. We are proud to be part of the nationally accredited network of the Small Business Development Center, which has over 1,000 networks across the United States. You are here this afternoon for a webinar on Let's Get Users to Your Website. A copy of the PowerPoint and a link to the recording will be sent to all the attendees. Being a webinar, all the attendees have been muted. However, we always encourage you guys to drop your question on the Q&A or the chat box. Today is indeed a great day because this is like the first time I'm moderating an event for Jenn. Before we actually started, I did tell her Happy New Year because this is the first time I'm seeing her. I promise you guys today we'll have a smooth presentation. Just sit tight and flow according to the flow and the tune of the presentation. Without further ado, please allow me to welcome Ms. Jenny, even as she takes over the flow for the presentation. Ms. Jenny, you are welcome.
Thank you, Garba. I think that was the most energetic introduction I've had so far. I feel like we're getting started on a flight, ready to take our journey into website traffic. Hello, everyone. I don't know what else I could say beyond what Garba said, but thank you so much for being here on the first day of March. We're excited to talk about your websites. And as Garba said, please drop everything in the chat. If you have questions, go ahead and do Q&A. We'll be answering questions throughout. And also go ahead and let us know what industries you're in, and then we can talk about how some of these things might apply to those industries specifically. So let us know what your business is, and even, share your website if you want to send people there and get to know each other a little bit more. All right, getting started. So we're going to talk about getting users to your website and a couple different methods to do that, including blogging, SEO, what some of these terms mean, and then some other non-SEO ways as well. Oh, I'm seeing finance, skincare, yoga, art and therapy, healthcare, retail. I don't know what Terra Systems is, but it looks good. Oh, this is a great variety. Okay, so a little bit about me, just to get started. My name is Jenn Wells. I am the co-founder and marketing director of BrandSwan. We are a branding, web design, and marketing company that works with small businesses to help you break away from the flock, reveal your inner awesome. Some other quick things about me: reformed perfectionist, obsessed with efficiency, templates, optimizing things. And I am also a mother of 2 crazy little boys. I have 2 dogs as well, and I read obsessively. I also have consultations. So if you finish this up and you're like, I really just want to pick someone's brain for an hour, feel free to schedule time with me. I am more than happy to go through and offer some advice for that hour session. If you're not ready to go whole hog with a web designer, you just want an opinion, always here for that. BrandSwan, this is my co-founder, Jane. We are the owners of the company. Our team is about 8 people. We've got a handful of pets as well, more pets than people. And this is our mission statement, which I kind of already said, so I won't repeat that. All right, getting right on into it. Reading a couple more answers. We've got jewelry, personalized gifts, tree services, food, spice blends, professional coaching, environmental remediation products. This is really, really cool variety here. Okay, well, with all those industries in mind, the first thing I'm going to tell you, and this applies pretty much across the board, right now you're probably thinking, how do I get people to visit my website? And I'm going to tell you, you need to switch that around. You need to be thinking about your clients, your target audience, whoever it is that you want to visit. So instead of thinking how to get them to your website, you're thinking, how do they find information? And then after they start looking for information, how do you become the resource that they go to? So the first step is, where are they online? How are they searching? What search terms are they using? So to kind of break that down a little bit, there's different ways that they might be looking for information. And so as far as how to optimize website, how to get traffic, the biggest bulk of what we're going to talk about today is going to be SEO, search engine optimization. This is getting found on Google or Bing or whatever your search engine of choice is. And this is going to be related to the content on your website. But there's also, and that's on-page SEO, is the content on your website and what you've done to your website to make it user-friendly and searchable. But then there's also some off-page SEO, which is going to be things like linking back to you and other things outside of your website. You have a little less control over, but there's definitely some tactics there. And then this little chunk here is for other ways to share your website beyond just the SEO stuff. And we're actually going to start there because there's not quite as much to say about that. All right, so ways to share your website. Hopefully you're already doing these, but just in case you've forgotten, once you have your website built, anything that your business puts out should have a way for people to get back to your site. So that means including it in all of your print media, definitely on business cards, ads, service brochures, flyers. These other things are optional, you know, it depends on your budget really, but if you're doing TV ads, radio ads, anytime you speak, so, you know, like me here today, I've got my website all over this presentation. This presentation will be sent out to you later. So that's just, you know, make sure you don't forget those little things. And not just your website, but do you have current promotions you want people to know about? You know, do you offer consultations? Are there other things on your website you want them to be able to click over to? So include links wherever you're going so people can navigate to your website easily. Contests, email, social media, online platforms. Any online profile you have should have a way to get back to your website. So just make sure your profiles include those. Make sure you're setting that up on every profile, website, platform, any print thing that you design. Just make sure you're including that always. It's a good practice to have. Okay. That's pretty much it for the non-SEO stuff. The rest of this presentation is going to be about search optimization and the stuff that we can do to your website itself. So if anyone has questions about any of the non-website technology part of getting website traffic, go ahead and let me know. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and dive right in. We're going to start with on-page SEO. So this means all the things that you can do to your own website. So this is the content that you write. This is the usability. Which means that when someone goes to your website, how easy is it to find what they need? How easy is it to go through the elements? Is everything loading? Are there broken links? Those are types of things you should check for. There's also the page speed. Google takes that into account. If you're really slow website, then you're not going to load up as quickly. You're not going to go as high in the search rankings because they're taking points off for that. Whether or not it's responsive to mobile. At this point, if you've got a Squarespace website, if you're using any kind of website builder like Wix, Weebly, things like that, most website templates are responsive, but just double check, open your website on a phone. And we're also going to talk about optimizing page content, the meta descriptions, some of the settings behind the scenes, and your alt text on images. General rule of thumb here is Google wants to provide its users with websites that are useful, that are valuable to them. So when you're deciding what to put on your website, how to format your website, just make sure that you're keeping that in mind. Is this going to be useful to the people that are searching for it? And if the answer is yes, then you're probably already heading in the right direction. So starting with usability. People don't always realize how important a broken link can be. If someone clicks something on your website and it opens up a 404 page that says, we can't find that information, are they going to hit the back button or are they just going to leave? And so this is something that you need to pay attention to. You can also, there are some tools to help you search and make sure that you don't have broken links. So these are some things that you want to make sure that you check for to make sure that your usability is high on your website. You want to check that all of your images and content are loading. You don't want to have any of those little boxes with an X through them that says, you know, image didn't load, or it has the alt text there instead of the image. You want to make sure that all the links are clickable and that they take them to the right place. You want to make sure that people find it easy to navigate through your website. The best way to test this is to have someone who hasn't seen it yet get on the website and then tell them what you want them to do. Say, I want you to go read about my services and then book time with me, right? Like give them a task to complete. Because if they just open your website and look at it, they'll say, oh yeah, it looks good. But if they're trying to actually do something and they're unable to do it, then you know that you have a problem. There's also usability websites that you can use, but I'll be honest, I've submitted my website before and I didn't find the responses very helpful. So I would say if you can get a client or someone from your target audience to do it, that is my #1 choice. If you can't get that, just ask a friend or family member. This is not so much about making sure that this is hitting the target audience right in all the places. This is just making sure your website works and people can use it. And then orphaned page content. What that means is you wrote a great sales page, but they can't find it because you don't have it linked in your navigation. None of the other pages linked to it. There's no way to get there. And it's possible that you might do something like that as part of your strategy. Maybe you're sending out a postcard. You want to be able to track how many people go to the link on the postcard. And so you have a sales page just for the postcard. That's fine. If you don't link it anywhere in your website, that's okay. But if you have content you want people to be able to visit in the website itself, all of that needs to be able to be accessible from the main navigation. Or if your website is really huge, then maybe, for example, say you've got 3 different service categories, and then each category has 10 services underneath of it, and you have a page for every single one of those. That's a lot for your main navigation. You might not want to put all of that in there. So what you could do instead is have one main service page that then provides those links to those other pages. So that's an example where a main navigation might not be the best way to go if there's a ton of content, but you still have it linked somewhere that people can find easily. Someone had a question, would an orphaned page work well within finance for us to have a resource page or glossary? My suggestion for that kind of content would actually be as a blog. So if you're going to have a few different resources or useful articles, things like that, go ahead and just make one little link that takes them to the blog, and then they can dig through your content. Otherwise, you know, like what's the purpose of that page? And maybe I can see a couple different reasons for that. If that's a page for your clients to help clarify things you're talking about, maybe that's something that you share and you don't worry about people finding. But that kind of page is a great one for your SEO. So I would say go ahead and we'll get more into content in this presentation, but make it part of your blog, write a couple different articles like that, and that's going to really help your SEO to have that on there. Okay, so usability check. Part of it is just checking manually, right? Go through, test everything, make sure that a friend can use the website without it breaking. The tool for checking broken links is right here in this presentation. So you can go to brokenlinkcheck.com or just search for broken link checker, and there will be a bunch of results that you can use for that. If you have a big website, or if you've recently changed your domain, if you've updated like your page structure, those are times when links can break, and that's a good time to check anytime you're making big changes to the site structure. All right, so when you're waiting for your website to load, you probably have a little more patience than this. You might wait 5 seconds or 10 seconds before you get frustrated and you say, why isn't this thing loading? But the people trying to visit your site, they're probably not just waiting for one site. They've probably searched for whatever it is that they need. Maybe, you know, that stress management topic there, stress manage it. They've got 10 tabs open that they're comparing against each other. If yours is the last one to load, they're less likely to look at it because they've got these other ones over here that already opened up for them. So that's why it's only 3 seconds, because people are browsing for information in lots of different places. They're trying to collect it quickly. It's not a find a manual, read it in depth, then move on to the next one. It's more about quickly selecting what might be a good option and then looking through and digging down a little bit deeper and then narrowing it down to the one you're going to spend time on. So think of it as almost like sorting through applicants when someone's applying for a job. There's the high level scan, there's a little bit more in depth, and then there's somebody reading through your content fully. And you have to make it through those first 2 levels before they're ever going to get in there and read how valuable your content is. So to make sure that you make it past that first level into that I'm actually spending time on your website, you need to make sure that it loads within those 3 seconds, ideally. And if it's 5 seconds, it's not the end of the world, but know that you are going to be missing some users if it takes that long to load. This also affects your page ranking. So it could be the difference between getting on the first page or the second page, even if you've done everything right, but your website just still loads slowly. I can tell you that the website builder that we use, it's called Divi, it tends to be a little bit slower, and we're still able to get our clients on the first page. So it's not the end all be all, but it will affect your ranking. So if your website is really slow, if it's taking more than 10 seconds to load, these are things you absolutely need to make sure that you're checking and things that you can fix. Some of the biggest issues that we've had come up, people don't have the right hosting package. They're paying for the cheapest one. It's not giving their website enough resources to load things quickly, and they have to upgrade. So make sure that your host isn't, nickel and diming you for not having enough resources or not having enough bandwidth on your site. Check your images. If you're taking pictures with your phone and you're uploading them directly, they're probably way too big. Phone images are often anywhere from 5 megabytes to 10. The images that you upload on your site should be less than 1. Ideally, they'd be around 500 to 800 kilobytes at most. So definitely check your images. And there are plugins that you can use to reduce the size, but ideally you're not uploading them and forcing the website to do the work of compressing them. Ideally, you're doing that before they ever make it to the website. Depending what type of website builder, there's different tools that can help you deal with that. So like I said, there's plugins on WordPress that can help with things like caching, image compression, that can help you solve some of the things that might cause a slow website. There's also a way to check your page speed if you have no idea if your website's fast or not. And that is this link here. This is Google PageSpeed, and it will tell you for mobile and for desktop. So maybe your website works really well for desktop, but it's got some cool transitions that make it too slow for mobile. And then you just have to turn those off, right? So they're on for desktop, they're off for mobile. The mobile experience is different, and that keeps it fast, and that keeps it from affecting your search. Side note, I don't know if I already mentioned this, your mobile search ranking can be different than your desktop one. So if I'm searching for, web design Delaware, and my own website comes up on the first page on desktop, that does not mean it will also come up on the first page on my phone. So you have to check on both and see how it comes up. It also is taking into account things like your location and how close the business is to where you are. So that's why it's good to have other people check and search for you, or to do it when you're away from your main home, your main computer, because you'll get a more accurate idea of what your current ranking is if you test it in different places. And if you test it on your phone versus on the desktop, because you'll get different answers or different rankings, I guess. Okay, so I think we've all gotten pretty comfortable with the idea that mobile devices have overtaken desktop for search. More people are finding things on their phone. Most people are doing at least some of their shopping on their phone. And so this is actually back in 2018 when they said that mobile devices were 58% of web visits. I'm sure that's only gone up, especially with the pandemic, people being home for a while, not having computers at home. And even if they've got a regular setup now, we've just gotten very comfortable with these things. So you need to make sure your website looks just as good on mobile as it does on desktop, because over half of people looking at your website are likely to be on there. And side note, if any of you pay attention to your Google Analytics, you might say like, oh, most of my users are on desktop. That's possible. And in some industries, especially if you've got a lot of data, or you've got charts or things that just don't translate well to mobile sized screens, it's possible that your users will still use their desktop. But as a general rule, this is true. Okay, so we talked about things ranking differently. If you want to make sure that your website is responsive, the easiest thing to do is just test it, right? Open it up on your phone, make sure that things are still readable, things aren't getting pushed off the screen. One of the biggest problems is that sometimes people will have columns and then they get all shrunk up. And most website builders will fix that for you, right? So if you have columns, they'll just break the columns and they'll stack the content below each other. But sometimes an image, say it's an icon, right? There's a little icon above each column. And then on the phone, suddenly that icon is the full width of the phone. Those are the kinds of things you need to look out for and that don't always respond quite as intuitively. So the check for that, honestly, mobile site design. Oh, okay. So yes, I'm giving you the same link to test for this because the page speed insight will check your mobile performance as well as your desktop, and it will give you the list of things that are wrong with the mobile performance. So it'll tell you like images are overlapping, this is a problem, because it's not just about the page speed, but it's also about the other elements interfering with the page speed. So this is a great tool for checking both your mobile performance and your overall page speed of your site. All right, finally time to talk about content. So it's not just about bringing people to your site. It's not just about getting on the first page. It's making sure that the people coming to your website are people that are relevant to what you're trying to do. Because if you're getting the wrong people to your website that are not interested in your services, they're going to open it up, they're going to click away, and now you've wasted your time. So that's what we talk about in marketing, vanity metrics versus the metrics that really matter. If you have a lot of website traffic, but your bounce rate is high, the bounce rate means that people open the page and leave without doing anything, without clicking around, without going to another page. That's not helping you. So there's more to look at than just the traffic overall. So some things to think about with the content, the keywords that you're using, are they accurate to what that page is going to talk about? So you can rank really well for a keyword, but if the page is about something else, then people are not going to stay. So you need to find keywords that people are searching for, but that are also relevant to what you do. And again, this is the kind of thing that might feel like common sense, but not everyone does it, right? Some people say, oh, anything to get people to visit my site. And that's just not, it's not a good practice and it doesn't actually help you. So if you're wondering how to pick keywords, there's a few different tools for that. The easiest thing, start by using your common sense, start by asking people when they get to your website, how did you find us? Or what search terms did you use? Anyone who wasn't able to find your website, ask them, what search terms were you looking for, right? And then that's a great place to start. And then you can use tools like Google Ads Keyword Planner or Google Trends, and they will help you see how many, for each keyword, which ones are being searched for, how often, how many people visited it, how many people actually clicked it, and also the competition. So, hey, this is a great keyword. It's got millions of people looking for it, but all your competitors already know that. And everyone's using that same keyword. So it's going to be really hard to rank well just because there's so many websites that are focused on that keyword. So that's why you might want to use one of these tools versus just saying, oh, common sense, I know what people will search for this. Once you know what your keyword is going to be, you're going to want to make sure to include that strategically throughout your copy. So it definitely needs to be in that page title. The page title is what shows up in search, so people can see what they're looking for. So in this case, this is the Web Design Delaware example. And you can see, web design company, Trolley, Delaware, those are all in the title. Trolley Web is one of our competitors. And we're down here. We've improved our SEO since I took this screenshot. And then the meta description is what shows up right under that title. So the title is the first thing people see when they see those list of results. The description is what they scan for. So from the top, you can see oh, that's a directory. I don't want to go there. This one is actually a company. Let me see if they're talking about the things I want them, to talk about. And so from this quick scan, I can see which websites I want to visit. And if you did want a directory, maybe you'd be excited. You'd be like, oh, I want to go to Clutch and I want to go to this upcity.com, right? Because those have a huge list of designers instead of just one. But if you're trying to get directly to someone's website, you already know I don't need to go to those. I can just skip to the ones that are actual companies. And so that's why page titles and meta descriptions are important, because this is the first exposure someone's going to have to your website once they type in those keywords in Google or Bing and they're looking for you. I have the link here for the keyword planner that I talked about. Google Trends is one that we've been using more recently, and that's easy to find. It's just trends.google.com if anyone wanted to give that a try. You can use that without having a Google Ads account. So that one might be easier for some of you if you don't have all of the Gmail accounts you need. Once you've got kind of your, I'll call it the back end stuff set up correctly, right? The page title, the meta description. Now you need to make sure that your content is also using that keyword strategically. And when I say strategically, I mean, you don't want to stuff it in there. You don't want it to sound like a robot wrote this page. So I don't want to say, we are a web design company that creates web design for small businesses, and we're the best web design company in Delaware. Like, that just doesn't sound like a human at all. And I, the reader, am going to walk away after seeing that because it's keyword stuffing. It looks unnatural. It feels spammy. People are getting smarter to things like this, and they can tell when it's spammy and when it doesn't feel like a real company. So talk like you would to a real person. Just make sure that you occasionally remember to tell them what it is that you do, and make sure it's formatted the same way as the keyword. So in this case, if the key phrase is best web design company, I can't say web design company that is the best. I need to use those words in that same order. There are tools like Yoast. This is for WordPress, but your platform probably has something similar where you can put in the keyword and it'll give you a little grade and it'll tell you what you can do better. Actually, WordPress is one of the best for this because I don't even know Squarespace and Wix. They do a lot of stuff for you, and you just kind of have to trust that they're optimizing your content for the right keywords. They don't give you the option to put your keyword in, and they don't give you the things to fix. So if you're not writing your content the right way, then they might not be optimizing it in a way that is actually helpful to you. Whereas Yoast, you have a lot more control. You're putting in the keyword that you want, and it's giving you the list of here's what you're doing well, here's how you can improve, and here's direct problems that you need to solve, right? And what I love about Yoast is that it explains it in ways that you don't have to be a web designer to understand. So in this case, links, outbound links, or links going off your site, going away. Use more key phrases or synonyms. So this one is recommending some synonyms in your subheadings. So you need to have the keywords in some subheadings. You need to have it in your body copy. You need to have it like mixed throughout the content. And Yoast will tell you exactly where it's missing and exactly where you're doing a good job with it. Yoast also lets you update the meta description, which is important. We just talked about that on the previous slide. All right, so images. You can actually use your keywords in your images as well. There are a few things that you need to do to make sure that your images are helping your website and not hurting it. And so we talked about the size, making sure that they're not huge, they're not slowing down your website. The alt text and the title are where you're including those keywords, and actually even in the file names sometimes, because these are all things that Google or Bing, I keep saying or Bing, or search engines in general are going to look at. The alt text is what shows up when someone is using a screen reader. So if someone has a visual impairment and they have it reading the words out loud, the alt text is going to be read to them to tell them what that image is representing. So you want to make sure that the alt text is, understandable by humans. You're not writing it for robots. So it should describe what the image is about. It should also include any text that's on that image. So in this case, this is a blog featured image, and it does have text on it. That makes it really easy to include the keywords because the keywords are in the title that's on the image, right? So it's very easy for me to put them in there. But if you weren't, say you were in real estate, right? And so it's real estate Delaware. Maybe it's a picture of people buying a house. So you say, happy homeowners settling into their new house in the real estate market in Delaware, or in Delaware real estate, or something. Like, you can throw it on the end. It doesn't have to be at the beginning. Try, and that was not a great example because I didn't sound super natural, but the more natural you can make it, including those keywords in there, the better. So just make sure that it describes what the image actually is, and then add your keywords if possible. Don't stuff them if it makes no sense at all. If it's an icon and it's a question mark, then Web Design Delaware does not fit in that alt text, does not fit in that title text. It doesn't belong there, right? Like, that's just an icon and it's fine. The title text, I would say, is secondary to the alt text because it's not being used for those screen readers. It's not necessarily being used. And I've seen people debate about whether or not Google's even looking at it, but some website builders will show the title text if you hover over it. And some people use it in different ways. So definitely still fill it out. This is also how you're going to find your images in your media library when you're searching through. So make it something that will be easy for you to search, right? And this is a good example of what's going to happen on Google, right? Google image search. If you're looking through your own library of photos, and you're typing something in and can't find it, it's a good chance that other people won't be able to find it either. So make sure that your titles on your images are something that makes sense. You know, mountain, sunset, web designer working on computer, things like that. And then also make sure that your file name is basically the same words that are in your title text. It can be short. You don't want it to be super long, but these words and these words are going to be the different things that pop up when people are searching for images. So they're important. Make sure you set them to something meaningful, but don't agonize over them as much as you might with the alt text. That is all my tips and tricks for on-page SEO. So if you have questions about any of those, go ahead and drop them in the chat or the Q&A. What I'm going to talk about now is off-page SEO. This is all of the ways that you can interact with other websites and get people to visit you from those other websites. One thing that people don't necessarily realize is that Google is not just looking at your website to determine the rankings, it's also looking at how many other websites are linking back to you, because each link back to you is kind of a vote of confidence, right? Yes, this is a credible website. Yes, you know, somebody else thought that it was valuable to include your information on their website. But it's not just the number of links that you get, it's also the quality of those links. So if you're in, you know, retail and you're getting links from, I don't know, healthcare, those aren't going to help you as much as they would other like shopping directories and other things like that. So you want to make sure that the websites that are linking to you are relevant, and that they also, the better SEO they have, the more their vote is going to count towards yours. So it's almost like your reputation when you're networking, right? The people vouching for you have to be reliable themselves, or else I'm not going to trust their recommendation. We're going to talk about backlinks a lot. We're also going to talk about ads, which are both ways to get people to come visit you. Okay, so we talked about that, the vote of confidence from one site to another, and you need to have credible people voting for you, or in this case, credible websites. I know a lot of people, there are services that will provide backlinks. You can pay $100 and they'll get you 1,000 backlinks. And this is what I want to make sure that you avoid, because they won't be quality backlinks. They'll just be a bunch of spammy websites they created just for the purpose of selling the service. And they're not going to help you. They might even hurt you, because Google doesn't like spammy websites. It doesn't want to serve them up to the people searching for things, because if they don't provide you quality results, people will stop using them. So if the only websites linking to you are a bunch of spam websites, they're probably not going to give you any boost in your rankings. They might even put you further down because you are no longer credible. So some ways to get backlinks, which I know off the top of your head, you're like, well, how can I make people link to me, right? I can't make them do anything. There are a handful of different solutions for this. Some of them are time consuming, some of them are easier than others. So the simplest one is adding your website to directories. So think, you know, Yelp.com, Yellow Pages. If there's any industry specific ones, like we had a florist and we added her to the Knot, and some of the other like wedding vendor type directories. A good way to find them, if you don't know what it is in your industry, is just search for those keywords. There's usually directories that come up on that first page, and just see which ones they are, and then see how expensive they are, because a lot of them do want some money to put you on there. Most of them are a one-time fee, some of them are annual subscriptions, and just decide if it's worth it or not. If it's a website that you've never heard of before, like for example, let's go ahead and search podiatrist, Delaware. This is actually pretty good because these are real companies. Okay, so Yelp comes up. Actually, I'm surprised that there's not like health grades. Okay, so here's one, health grades is one. This is not one that I have heard of. I know I find like WebMD, and there's like ZocDoc and a couple other ones that usually pop up when I search for doctors. Those ones I've seen before, I've heard of. I know that they're not new. So if I put my business on that listing, it will still be around a week from now. Whereas some websites will manage to get themselves on the front page. They'll collect all the money from people to add themselves to that directory, and then they just stop. and they disappear and they, they don't close the website, but if they're not actively working on their SEO, then they're going to naturally lose their ranking over time. And so you want to, ideally, if you're spending money on this, make sure that it's one that is on the first page or two of search, and make sure that it's been there for a while. So you might want to, like earmark it and then check again in a month and make sure it's still there before you pay for anything. So just a quick tip about directories. Some other things you can do. Do you have a Google business page? That is a free page that links back to you. That is also an additional way for you to pop up in Google. Let me see if I have an example. My slides, I do not. So, oops. I'll go ahead and demo that real quick too. So when I put in our business name, our business comes up down here, but the first thing people are seeing is actually our Google business page. And so this is something that helps you. It gives you a different way to search. It also adds you to Google Maps. So people can find you through here. They can also find you in the search here. And so that's why it's important to have a Google business page, because it gives people multiple ways to find you depending on which service they prefer, whether they're looking on Maps, whether they're looking in search. And there's also, I know there's business profiles on Bing and other search engines as well. So if you know that your audience typically uses something else, maybe it's really niche or specific to your industry, maybe you're in tech and people really like some third-party thing that most of us haven't heard of, then make sure you're using all the tools available with that search engine. We're most familiar with Google for our clients, so this is why I use it as most of my examples. But anyway, so you want to make sure you make this page. You want to make sure all the information is on there is accurate. It's linking back to your social profiles. It's linking back to your website. And also, if you collect reviews, the more reviews you have, the better that page is going to do. So the easiest way to improve the SEO of your Google business page is to get testimonials from people. And when you make that page, it will provide a link for you to share and to get testimonials from people. Social media accounts. So every profile, every account that you have that links back is going to help a little bit. It's also going to give people other ways to find you. Maybe they don't find you on Google, but they find you through Twitter, through Facebook. Doesn't matter. That's still going to help you. That still counts. And also, the more people visiting you from those other platforms, the more Google is seeing, oh, people found that site useful. And even though they didn't find us through Google, they still came there and they stayed. And now we're going to bump them up in our search rankings because other people found them useful. So it's almost like a vote of confidence from the users who came from other platforms. So make sure that, you don't have to set up every social media account in the world, just set up the ones you feel comfortable with and that you're okay with managing, but then get those links on your profiles. Some of these things are more time consuming, my last suggestions, but whenever you search for, how do I get backlinks to my site? You get all these articles that say, oh, you need to write guest blog posts and you need to pitch people. And I can't tell you the number of pitches we've had for people wanting to blog for our website. And I think there are better ways to do it, right? Like just sending out a mass email to all these people that don't know you and have never heard of you is unlikely to get you that many guest blog posts. But you can make accounts with some of the websites that make sense for your industry, and you can blog there and you can link back to your website from those. So maybe that's, sorry, I'm going to get to that next comment. Medium is one. I know for one of our real estate clients, we use Bigger Pockets, which is about real estate investing. So it really just search for, blog forums that are in your industry, and then consider whether you want to blog there, or maybe you want to keep the blog on your website because it's going to help your organic SEO better. So it's up to you whether you want to do it as a backlinking strategy or whether you want to blog on your website and improve your SEO through the keywords that are on your site. Okay, so press releases. So Cheryl says, my local newspaper said press releases are not a thing anymore. And I will tell you, I have gone back and forth on this because I know as an individual human being, I do not get my news from press releases. I don't read them. I don't even know where to find them. But we have put out press releases to our local media here in Delaware, and we do get stories picked up. We have literally had newspapers that copy and paste the article and use it as is. They don't make any changes at all. So even if the press release itself isn't going to get you SEO, if it gets you picked up by a newspaper and now that newspaper is linking back to you, then that's going to help you. In the case of the newspaper wanting payment for the press release, yeah, that's not a good connection. Don't use that. The most valuable thing you can do, honestly, is, you know, the whole PR thing. Make connections with your media, have people that you know that you can pitch for stories. But that's, you know, that's not everybody's strength, right? I'm a huge introvert, so the idea of trying to be friends with the hundreds of reporters that live in Delaware just makes me anxious even thinking about it, right? So we send out a press release every now and again. Sometimes they get picked up. That works for us. For you, it might be like, oh, you know, I have a friend who works for this blog or this website or this, you know, radio station. And if you have a friend who will pick up your stories when they're relevant, that's even better, right? Or you can pitch specifically. I know Technically Delaware, and Technically is a Pennsylvania-based company, so there's definitely Technically Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, one of those two. They focus on tech, you know, so news in the tech sphere, and they also publish their calendar, and they give you instructions for how you can submit stories or story ideas. So they tell you how to pitch them, which lets you approach it a little more strategically. Think of it as the difference between applying to jobs on LinkedIn and just pressing apply, 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 apply. I don't know about you guys. I have never heard back from one of those when I've done that, versus writing a tailored cover letter. Those took way more time, and you know, it's kind of exhausting emotionally to put that labor in, but the vast majority of the job interviews I've had have been because of those cover letters. So there's different ways to go about the press release. There's making sure that the people you're reaching out to with the press release are, you know, relevant, specific, that they're not just trying to get money for it. And then there's just your area, right? Your area might be vastly different than ours. So it's knowing what the culture is around news in your area and press releases in general. Okay. And then my last one is sponsorships. So anytime you sponsor an event or a charity event, check and see what's included in that sponsorship package. The good ones should be sharing you on social media. They should be including your logo and your website on their event page, ideally linking back to your website. So if you pick charities or events or things that are related to your industry, you know, in our case, maybe it's a small business event, and then they're linking back to you, that's going to help you. And that link doesn't go away. You know, like some places might clean up their old event pages, but a lot of them will leave them up, right? Like a conference or something like that. They'll have previous years if anyone wants to go check them out. They'll say like, see past years here, or even if they don't have it in the main navigation, if you Google it, you can still find the page. So the page is out there somewhere and it's still linking back to you. And at one time it had a lot of traffic. So over time, that backlink will decrease in value, but for at least a few years after that conference, it's going to have a ton of value to your page as a backlink to you. So you're going to have to weigh the ROI, right? Like, is a backlink really worth a $500 sponsorship? Maybe not. Hopefully you're getting more out of it than that. Hopefully you're getting a table and you can talk to people and you'll get some leads that day. But the more you do things like that, the more your SEO is going to increase because all these other people are linking back to you. So those are all different strategies for that. This resource that I'm including here, this is another Google account you'd have to use. It's called Search Console, and it gives you kind of a sneak peek of which backlinks people are getting to your website from. So you can see who's already linking to you, which sometimes is surprising because you're like, I didn't set that up, but somebody happened to mention you in a blog post and it's working really well for you. And it also lets you know what keywords people are using to find you. In our case, we had one that was really surprising because we do an interview series. And so we were interviewing people in different industries and we were getting found for their names. So not at all helpful to us because these are not people seeking web design. They're looking for, you know, Jessica Smith and Billy whatever, and they're not looking for us at all. And so that was a note to us. Oh, hey, maybe we need to turn off the SEO for these posts because they're sending irrelevant people to us. Or maybe we leave them on and we hope that some of these people, you know, after they find this profile of this person, maybe they'll become interested in what we do after that. So it's kind of a toss up to see how much value that page ends up having. But it is helpful to see, like maybe people are finding you through really irrelevant keywords. Maybe you're a real estate photographer and people are finding you when they're searching for wedding photographer. That you definitely want to change because those audiences are so completely different, right? People looking for photos of a house are not going to be interested in the wedding photographer and vice versa. Okay, so I see a question. Do you have any other hacks for coming up with keywords? A lot of times I come up with the major ones that everyone else is using as well. I'm having difficulties coming up with finding niche keywords that people actually search for. I really do think that using the keyword planner in Google is the best way to go about that. So if you put in your keyword ideas, 3 to 5 keyword ideas, it will show some other ones as well. It'll give you a whole list of suggestions that people are searching for. And then it gives you the amount of searches it gets. And it also gives you the competition levels. So that's how you can find the ones where like maybe they have a decent, they have 1,000 searches per month, but they don't have high competition versus the ones that have 1 million searches every month and everybody's using them. So other than Google, Google Ads or Keyword Planner, there's none that we use regularly, but there are a ton of keyword tools. And that might be something that you just search and find one that fits your price point for it, what you're willing to pay for that research. Because a lot of keyword tools and a lot of SEO tools are kind of pricey. I apologize that I don't really have one off the top of my head because we're not paying for that service. We're just using the free one provided by the Google Ads account. But yes, so short answer to your question, there's a ton of resources out there. Just finding the one that is the best fit for you, I guess, is the hard part. Oh, someone said, what does SEO stand for? Search engine optimization. So when we talk about how you rank for search, where you show up on that page, that's what SEO is all about. It's getting to the front page of Google if you can, and where you're ranking, how you're ranking against your competitors, things like that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about paid search, which is basically Google Ads. Right now, paid search drives only a portion of website traffic. Organic search is a lot higher. Whoops. And I guess you could look at those statistics and you could think of it 2 different ways. You could say, oh, paid search is less effective, or you could say this is an opportunity because more people are still doing things, organically, and they're not as likely to pay for ads. So there's 2 different ways to look at that. What I can tell you about ads, and I'll be honest, I still find Google Ads pretty intimidating. It's hard to get them right. It's hard to make sure you get ROI of them. It's very, very easy to waste a lot of money. So when you're creating an ad, the best thing you can do is A/B test, run small amounts of money, try out different things, try out different headlines, different copy, different targeting, and see what works well before you start throwing bigger chunks of money at it. Because it is very easy to just blow your whole ads budget and not get anything out of it. Okay. So ads in general, I'm kind of talking about Google Ads here, but there's so many different kinds of ads that you can do. There's social media in addition to Google, Amazon. You can do display ads that follow people around on different websites. It really just depends where your audience is hanging out online, right? So if people are mostly using Google to try to find you versus people are browsing for your type of service on Facebook, it's just knowing your audience at this point to pick which platform you're going to run ads on. We actually had a client that did really well with Quora ads, Quora, Quora, and that is a forum where people ask questions. They ask in-depth questions and people write almost blog posts in response. And so that was a great place to run ads because the questions were so targeted. So we could say exactly by what types of topics those people were searching. So we could almost guarantee that the person finding this ad was a property owner, right? And they might be looking for property manager. So it was a very close match. Whereas on Facebook, you're going to be a lot more limited in the targeting you can do for that type of thing. But I'll get more into that. So lots of different options for platforms. The pricing varies really widely because I feel like people always want to know, what are the ads going to cost me? And it's so different depending on what you're trying to do. So different industries cost more if you look at benchmarks. So, some industries it costs more per click, like every click is a few cents. Some industries, every click is a few dollars. And it also depends on what you're trying to accomplish. So I know like with Facebook, you can pay per click or you can pay per conversion. So per click means that every time someone clicks over to your website, that is what you're getting charged for. And that might cost you a few cents, you know, or 15 cents or 30 cents. Whereas a per conversion can cost you up to $8 because that means they're going to your website and they're doing something. They're clicking a button, they're filling out a form, they're taking some kind of action. It also means you're going to have to set up a lot of tracking code so that Facebook or whatever the platform is able to see what's happening on your website. So more complicated to set up, a lot more expensive per user that you get, but that's a guaranteed result of some kind versus the clicks, which is like, okay, they clicked and then what did they do? Did they even stay on the page? They might have just left right away and you still have to pay for it. So those are the types of things you want to think about when it comes to cost. If possible, search for benchmarks, and you can literally search benchmarks, Facebook ads, and then your industry, right? Benchmarks, Facebook ads, real estate, and then see what comes up and see if there's anything relevant to you. There are ads reports that some of the social media tools, they'll publish white papers on this sort of thing, and they'll give you like the comparison across the board, which, you know, that can be really helpful just to give you an idea of what you're in for. But no one's going to be able to tell you how your specific ads are going to perform because it's just a toss up. It depends how well you know your audience. It depends how well you pick out your messaging, your imagery, all those things. So like I said, A/B testing. Make sure you start small, try a few different things, see what's working before you start investing a lot of money. And then these pictures are just examples of ads. So on Google, the first, 4 results, typically 3 to 4 results are ads and they're labeled, but it's pretty subtle. Like it would be easy to think this is an organic search result, but it's not, it's an ad. And then same thing with Facebook. They just hide this right in your feed. So you're scrolling, and if you ever see a page and you're like, I have no memory of following that page, it's probably an ad. Also, anytime you see one of my Facebook friends has liked X page, that is also an ad. Your friends are not publicly announcing how much they like that page. Most likely, sometimes they are. And that's what makes the ads effective, is how well they hide them in with your regular content. All right, so getting into targeting, I'm just checking time. I've got 9 minutes, so I'll try to speed this up. The targeting options are different on every platform, and I kind of talked about that a little bit, but really it depends on what information the platform's gathering about the users, right? So on LinkedIn, everyone's putting in their entire resume. LinkedIn knows exactly what job position people have, how long they've been there. A lot of times it has a guess as to their salary range. So when you're targeting on LinkedIn, you can do it very well for different types of workplace demographics and different types of careers, jobs, things like that. Facebook, on the other hand, focuses a lot more on interests, and it's basing this on the types of content that people are reading and clicking on, the types of pages that they follow. Because people are not putting their entire resume into Facebook, so it just doesn't know that, it doesn't see that information about them. Facebook also has some targeting limitations for certain areas, so they're trying to prevent discrimination, which is great, but sometimes it can be frustrating because you have to declare, for our property managers, for example, we're running an ad, it's for property owners. And because we clicked property owner and it's a real estate or a housing ad, it's in that special category. Now half of our targeting options are down. And so we didn't want to do, by gender, but maybe we wanted to do by age because people are more likely to own properties once they're older or have more income, something like that. Will not let us do that. We just have to do the very general targeting because, again, they're trying to prevent discrimination. So I do think it's awesome that Facebook has those in place, but just know that depending on the category of ad that you're running, you'll have different options available. And then also think about the platform, what information people are putting in there, and what you're likely to get. Like I said, Quora has amazing targeting because it's all based on topics that people are actively searching. So you can pick topics and even like different channels on the platform that your ads will show up in. You can make sure that your ad content is really, really relevant to the stuff people are reading on the site, which is amazing. Facebook, I feel like, is more of a toss-up because you're just doing this really general targeting. People that are interested in nonprofits. I don't even know if they work at a nonprofit. I just know that they might be interested in them. That doesn't mean I'm going to get nonprofit workers or executive directors or whatever it is that I'm trying to target. Okay, so I highlighted this is the most important step, because if your ads are not getting the right people, it doesn't matter how beautiful they are. It doesn't matter what the messaging is. You have to make sure that you're finding the people that are going to care about this ad. So don't skip this step of finding your audience and making sure you're on the right platform. Oh, and then Google, of course, will focus on keywords. So you have to make sure that you have an understanding of keywords, that you've done that research, that you know what keywords to use before you get started with Google. Okay, A/B testing. I do think that in general, I love targeting by interest or, job type over age and gender. I feel like age and gender targeting is so pointless because you're making a ton of assumptions about who's going to be interested in your content. That being said, it has a place. Like if I'm a midwife, I know I'm targeting women. So it's not always useless, but I think a lot of people niche down based on that, and they don't necessarily need to. So my personal preference, I'm always looking for things that will let me target based on interest, topics, or career, because that's what's going to be relevant to the work that we do. Okay, so picking an ad goal. We talked about pay per click versus pay per conversion. And so, and you know what? I actually said $8 earlier. $15 per conversion is the highest one that I've seen when I've been doing this type of ad. And it really just depends on the industry, right? And so that's that benchmarks report that, you can look up or try to find. One of the other things that make ads confusing and frustrating is that different platforms define these terms differently. So conversions usually means the same thing. It means that someone takes action on your website, but pay per click can mean different things on different platforms. Like Facebook, just our analytics with Facebook, it has said that clicks were people clicking on the post. They didn't even go to our website and we're still paying for those clicks. To me, that is a completely wasted ad, or not even ad, like that click, there was no point in paying for that because they never did anything with it. They just literally looked at the ad. Not worth my time. Also, sometimes they'll say video views count as engagement, right? And that could just be like the videos auto playing in their feed. You don't know if they clicked play or if they're watching that video on purpose. So there's a lot of things to know about the different metrics and what's worth targeting with your different ad goals that you can choose. So this is an example screenshot from Facebook of which types of goals you can pick. Things like brand awareness, usually that's going to be page followers, getting people to follow your page. These are things like getting them to take action or engage with you, liking posts. Reach is, oh, sorry, Garba, do you need me to cut this short? Okay, I will go ahead and go through here. Here's some examples. Creative is your imagery, the words that you use. Like I said, A/B testing, trying out different things. Definitely think about what is the point of this ad? Why does someone care? That's my best advice for marketing. Why do they care? What do I want them to do? Touch on those 2 points and make sure that you say it in an interesting, fun way. You're more likely to get people to do it. You can see these best practices later. Okay, boom, I'm at the end. Now what? I have some resources. If you want these are available for free on our website, so you can click on the links in this presentation. This is a target audience template that will help you walk through and figure out who your target audience is if you don't already know. And this is helping you write content for your website. We have a template that has the most commonly asked questions on the different pages. Once you answer those questions and make sure that your user has a reason to be on that page, that will help you write website content. All the links from the presentation are here at the end. And that's it. Sorry, Garba, I'm done.
There's no problem. Thank you very much. Just a quick one. This goes to our attendees. I just posted a 30-minute survey about today's webinar. Remember, we at Tempo SPDC, we always cherish your feedbacks, even as it helps us to improve on the services we provide to you guys at a low cost. So kindly take a 30 seconds and help us to fill out this survey. I'm actually talking fast because we are far left behind the time. Just want to use this opportunity to I can see a question on our Q&A. Jenny, I'm sure you've seen it.
Yes, we did talk about keywords already.
Yeah. So can you just like try to like say 1 or 2 things about it before we wrap it up for the day?
Yes. Okay. So kind of readdressing that keywords question. And I guess one thing I didn't mention, so there's lots of keyword tools you can use. Finding the best one for you, honestly, just do a Google search, see if you can find one. Google Ads Keyword Planner will let you compare. So it'll give you suggestions based on the ones you put in. And that's really helpful if you don't know what to search for, because it'll give you more and it will let you see how many searches are being done for it and how high the competition is. So that lets you select them strategically. The other thing to note is that keywords do not have to be one word. So all my examples were things like web design Delaware. A lot of times looking for things geographically can really help you. Like we're not going to get on the first page for web design. There's too many web design companies in the US. It is just not going to happen. But we picked Delaware because that's where we're located. And so, you know, a lot of people search for things that are close to them, even if logically they don't need to be close to them because it's reassuring, they know it's a real company. And if you're anything like a retail, then yes, put your geographic location in there and that will really help you. You'll be much more likely to make it to the first page. It will also help you with your Google business page and getting on the map. So that is my quick suggestion.
Okay. Thank you very much. I did saw on the chat box, someone was asking about the presentation. I will personally make sure I send you a copy of the PPT and a link to the presentation either today or first thing tomorrow. In fact, I'll do it today. Okay. Before we wrap it up for the day, yeah, I will. Wow, it's a promise. Trust me.
Just for you
I just want
guys.
to,
He is so
yeah,
awesome.
totally. I just want to use this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for keeping it a day. Jenny, thank you for a wonderful presentation. I did told you guys, you know, I did said at the beginning of the presentation that today is going to be awesome because, you know, I actually have an idea of what will happen. And of course, I can attest to it that the presentation was smooth. I love the interaction. I love all the questions that came up during the presentation. Without further ado, thank you and do have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.